Introducing Audiobook Top, your new home for the finest selection of audiobooks available anywhere.
The studio, awash in the languid amber of a summer afternoon, held its breath. Basil Hallward, his face streaked with paint and triumph, stepped back from the easel. Before them, a vision. It was Dorian Gray, not merely painted, but enshrined. The canvas pulsed with a life more vivid, a beauty more arresting, than the young man himself could ever possess. Every line, every shade, spoke of an innocence so profound it seemed destined to shatter. This was perfection, captured and immortalized. Dorian himself, sprawled elegantly on a divan, rose slowly, drawn by an invisible current. His eyes, the color of dark pools under a summer sky, widened. He saw not just his likeness, but the radiant essence of his youth, distilled, intensified, made almost divine. A gasp escaped his lips, a whisper of awe and, perhaps, a nascent terror. "It is finished," Basil murmured, a tremor of profound satisfaction and a peculiar melancholy in his voice. "My masterpiece." Lord Henry Wotton, ever the serpent in this Eden, leaned against the doorway, a languid smile playing on his lips. "Indeed, Basil. A triumph, and a tragedy, I dare say." Dorian turned, his gaze still fixed on the canvas, a shadow beginning to creep into his perfect features. "Tragedy? How so, Harry?" Lord Henry drifted closer, his voice a silken caress, full of dangerous truths. "Because, my dear boy, it will never age. This divine creature will forever mock the fleeting reality of its original. Look at it, Dorian. See how it smiles, eternally young, eternally exquisite. And then, look in the mirror. Observe how time, that most vulgar of artists, will begin its work on you. The bloom will fade, the curves will grow harsh, the light will dim in those lovely eyes." He gestured dismissively at the real Dorian, then back to the painting with an almost possessive reverence. "This, my dear Gray, is what you are now. Soon, it will be what you were asterisk. A cruel comparison, is it not? To be blessed with such unparalleled beauty, only to watch it desert you day by inevitable day." Dorian's breath caught. He stared from the painting, so serenely, devastatingly perfect, to his own trembling hand. Lord Henry's words, like insidious poison, began to seep into his very soul. He had never truly considered the perishability of his youth before. Now, it felt like a dagger twisting in his gut. The thought of losing this divine bloom, of becoming anything less than what stared back from the canvas, was unbearable, an unthinkable injustice. "Is there no escape, Harry?" he whispered, his voice thin, almost childlike in its desperation. "Must I indeed fade, while that asterisk lives on, mocking my decay?" He pointed a trembling finger at the portrait. "Oh, if only it were the other way! If I could remain as I am now, and the picture grow old. If it were I who were to be a ghastly, painted thing, and the canvas that which I worshipped." A strange, almost imperceptible shiver ran through the sunlit room. Basil, sensing a profound disquiet, stepped forward, a frown deepening between his brows. "Dorian, what are you saying? It's merely a painting, a representation. Life is life." But Dorian wasn't listening. His eyes were fixed on the painted face, a desperate yearning twisting his own. His voice grew stronger, firmer, as if pledging himself to some unseen power. "Yes, if only that were possible! I would give my soul for that! My very soul!" He clenched his fists, his young face contorted by a sudden, intense agony, a fierce wish that ripped through the placid air of the studio like a silent scream. "Oh, that it should be I who am to be old, and ugly and withered, and that picture to be ever young. I would give everything. I would give my soul for that asterisk." Lord Henry's smile, subtle and knowing, widened just a fraction. He said nothing, merely watched. Basil, meanwhile, felt a cold dread seep into his heart. He had captured perfection, yes. But in doing so, had he unwittingly unwound the very thread of Dorian's innocence, laying bare a path to ruin that none of them could yet fully comprehend. The air shimmered with an unspoken bargain, a contract signed in the fervent, unguarded wish of a beautiful boy. The hook was set. The price, for now, remained unwritten, but it had been irrevocably agreed upon. My first encounter with Oscar Wilde's asterisk, the Picture of Dorian Gray asterisk, wasn't a casual stroll into a library aisle. It felt more like an illicit rendezvous, a whispered invitation to a world both dazzling and disquieting. I was younger then, drawn by the faint scandal clinging to its reputation, an almost tangible aura of forbidden fruit. I remember the weight of the book in my hands, the almost palpable electricity of its infamous prose, even before the first word was read. It wasn't just a story, it was an experience, an entry point into a shimmering, dangerous philosophy that began to subtly, insidiously, challenge everything I thought I knew about beauty, morality, and the human soul. What captivated me immediately was not just the sheer elegance of Wilde's language, each sentence a perfectly cut jewel, sparkling with wit and profound insight, but the immediate, almost dizzying charisma of its characters. Dorian, of course, was irresistible, a vision of youthful perfection, an innocent canvas upon which the world, and indeed Lord Henry Wotton, would begin to paint. Lord Henry, Lord Henry. He wasn't merely a character, he was a siren, his voice a melodic poison, weaving philosophies of pleasure, of seizing the day with reckless abandon, of rejecting the dull conventions that bind us. He spoke to a nascent rebellion within me, a yearning for freedom from societal chains, for a life lived purely for sensation. It was a dangerous seduction, one that I, like Dorian, found myself powerless to resist. Then came the portrait, that ingenious, terrifying conceit. The wish for eternal youth, for beauty to remain untouched while time ravaged all others, struck a chord that felt deeply, universally human. Who among us hasn't, in a fleeting moment of vanity or fear, wished for such a miracle? But Wilde, with his exquisite cruelty, shows us the true cost, the Faustian bargain lurking beneath such desires. The portrait became more than just a painting. It was a living, breathing testament to a soul's degradation, a silent scream of corruption hidden behind a flawless facade. It forced me to confront the uncomfortable truth that beauty can be a mask, and the most exquisite exterior can conceal the most grotesque interior. As Dorian's journey unfolded, my initial youthful fascination slowly morphed into a profound sense of unease, then horror. The initial thrill of his hedonistic escapades curdled into revulsion as his innocence was shed, layer by layer, revealing an emptiness, a cruelty that grew with each unpunished transgression. The book, for me, stopped being a mere tale of a corrupted aesthete and became a chilling meditation on responsibility, on the inescapable consequences of our choices, however cleverly we try to hide them. Every time Dorian committed an act of wickedness, a stain would spread across the canvas, and I felt it not just as a narrative device, but as a visceral indictment of a soul willingly lost. Years later, rereading it, the book offered new revelations, new textures. Lord Henry, once a witty iconoclast, now appeared as a parasitic influence, a cynical puppeteer delighting in the ruin of a beautiful thing. Basil Hallward, the earnest artist, emerged as the true heart of the story, his love and despair painting a stark contrast to the superficiality around him. The themes of art mirroring life, of the artist's soul imprinted upon their creation, resonated with a deeper understanding of human connection and vulnerability. The Picture of Dorian Gray became less about the supernatural and more about the intensely human struggle between appearance and reality, between the desires of the flesh and the demands of the spirit. In a world increasingly obsessed with curated images, with eternal youth filtered and perfected, Wilde's masterpiece speaks with an even more urgent voice today. It asks us to look beyond the surface, to question the cost of our obsessions, and to consider what truly endures when beauty fades and the mirror of truth is finally held up. This journey with Dorian Gray has been one of constant discovery, a relentless questioning of what it means to live a life, to make choices, and to confront the indelible marks they leave upon our own unseen portraits. And it is a journey I am eager to share, one chapter at a time, exploring the dark, glittering depths of this extraordinary and eternally relevant tale. Chapter 1. The artist and his muse. The air in Basil Hallward's studio hung thick and sweet, a lazy afternoon suspended between the perfume of crimson roses and the drowsy hum of bees insistent upon the open casement. Sunlight, a golden sieve, sifted through the heavy curtains, painting dust motes into dancing jewels. And there, upon the easel, stood the portrait. A young man, impossibly beautiful, seemed to breathe from the canvas, his lips poised as if to utter some enchanting truth. His eyes, of a startling blue, held all the innocence and all the potential for wonder in the world. Basil, a man whose artistic soul was as vivid and complex as the pigments on his palette, stood back, a sigh escaping him. It was finished, his masterpiece. A piece born not merely of skill, but of an inspiration so profound it felt like a visitation. He loved it, yet a strange tremor of fear ran through him. An artist's dread that a part of his very self, too sacred to be glimpsed by the common eye, now lay exposed for all to see. The calm was shattered by the arrival of Lord Henry Wotton, a figure whose very presence was a challenge to tranquility. Lord Henry, with his indolent grace and a mind like a razor-sharp epigram, surveyed the studio. His gaze, however, was quickly snared by the painting. He paused, a languid smile playing on his lips, then strolled closer, adjusting his boutonniere with an air of detached amusement. My dear Basil, he drawled, his voice a low, melodious murmur that carried the weight of 1,000 sophisticated observations. This is far and away the best thing you have ever done. You absolutely must send it to the Grosvenor. The public deserves to see it. It is exquisite. Basil turned, a flicker of apprehension in his eyes. No, Harry, I shall not send it anywhere. His voice, usually firm, held a fragile edge. It must not leave this studio. Lord Henry raised an eyebrow, a gesture of mild surprise. Not leave the studio? My dear fellow, why ever not? It's magnificent, it will make you famous. It is my secret, Basil said, his voice dropping, almost a whisper. He moved protectively towards the easel, as if shielding the canvas from Lord Henry's penetrating gaze. It reveals too much of me, Harry. More than I choose to reveal. Every artist pours his soul into his work, but this is different. It holds the very secret of my own soul. Lord Henry leaned against a cluttered table, picking up a silver cigarette case with unhurried elegance. He struck a match, the sudden flare momentarily illuminating his reflective eyes. And what secret might that be, Basil? Some curious confession of an unrequited passion, or perhaps a revelation of genius hitherto unsuspected. He exhaled a plume of smoke, a lazy curl against the light. Come now, don't be so melodramatic. Artists are always telling us they pour their souls into their work, and then we find their souls are really quite unremarkable. Basil winced. You do not understand, Harry. I have put too much of myself into it. He gestured towards the vibrant young man on the canvas. When I knew I had a truly perfect subject, one whose beauty could inspire me beyond anything I had ever dreamed, it was then that I began to fear. Fear that I had shown too plainly the ideal that now rules my art, my life even. I can't explain it. Other people can never know what the sitter is to the painter, what the painter is to the sitter, the true relationship. It is not something to be put on public display. Lord Henry's smile widened, a glint of intellectual curiosity sparking in his eyes. Ah, so this paragon of beauty has quite captivated you, has he? This mysterious young man who holds the key to Basil Hallward's artistic apotheoses. Tell me, who is he? I must meet him. Basil hesitated, a shadow crossing his face. You would not understand, Harry. You would only spoil him. You would inevitably try to influence him, and I cannot bear the thought of it. He is a wonderful boy, truly and utterly unconscious of his own dazzling effect. That is part of his charm. To exhibit this portrait would be to betray him, and more importantly, to betray the very essence of my affection. He looked at Lord Henry, a silent plea in his eyes, a desperate desire to protect the sanctuary of his creation. Lord Henry merely smiled, a knowing, almost predatory glint now firmly established in his gaze. On the contrary, Basil, I think I would understand him perfectly. A young man of such extraordinary beauty, untouched by the world. A canvas waiting for a master's brush. You have already painted his image, Basil. Now allow me to paint his mind. Perhaps a masterpiece far more intricate. He took another slow drag from his cigarette, the silence in the studio suddenly heavy, charged with unspoken possibilities and the faint, unsettling scent of roses beginning to fade. The portrait, impassive and beautiful, seemed to watch them both. Chapter 2. Enter the devil's advocate sweeping into Basil Hallward's studio, a glint of amusement in his eyes. My dear Basil, still communing with your muses, I see. Or is this some divine creature you've captured on canvas? Turning sharply, a flicker of annoyance and apprehension. Harry, you shouldn't be here, I'm busy. And Dorian? Ah, the very subject of this magnificent canvas. His gaze falls upon Dorian Gray, who stands, flushed with youth, by the window. How utterly charming. You have outdone yourself, Basil. This young man must be spared from the mundane. Stepping between them, almost defensively, he is not for your experiments, Harry. He has a soul, approaching, curious, a little shy. Mr. Wotton, I presume. Basil speaks of you often. Smiling, a slow, predatory warmth. Only good things, I trust. Basil is an artist, Mr. Gray. He sees only the beautiful. But life is far more complex and far more fleeting. Look at you. Youth like a flame, brilliant and brief. Do you appreciate it? A slight frown. A seed planted, I suppose so. No, you don't. Not truly. Time, my dear boy, is the great destroyer. It will steal your rose-red lips, dim the luster of your eyes, turn your perfect form to dust. He steps closer, his voice a silken whisper. Live, Mr. Gray. Live fully. Nothing is so fatal as a strain of asceticism. Yield to temptation, for the only way to get rid of it is to yield. If you resist, your soul grows sick with longing for the things it has forbidden itself. A sharp intake of breath. Harry, stop. You're poisoning him. Turning away from Basil, his eyes fixed on Lord Henry, a new, unsettling understanding dawning. Poison, or truth. What you say, it resonates. The fear of age, of loss. A triumphant half smile, precisely. Desperate, turning to Dorian. Dorian, the portrait is finished. Come look. Dorian turns. His eyes widen as he sees the completed canvas for the first time. A gasp escapes his lips. The painting captures him in the zenith of his beauty, vibrant, innocent, utterly captivating. Whispering, awe and a terrible sadness mixing in his voice, it's me. And it is so beautiful. Basil, it is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. His face softening with pride, I put my soul into it, Dorian. His gaze shifting from the ageless, perfect image to his own hand, then back to the painting, a profound despair settling upon him. Oh, Basil, how sad it is! I shall grow old, and horrid, and dreadful. But this picture will remain always as it is now. If only it were the other way. If I could remain young, and the portrait grow old, I would give my soul for that. A soft, almost imperceptible chuckle, a dangerous wish, Mr. Gray. But isn't youth worth any price? Horrified Dorian. Don't! It's blasphemous! It's only paint, clenching his fists, tears welling. No! It's my youth, my beauty, slipping away even now! He looks at the portrait with a fierce, almost possessive longing. Let it bear the burden. Let it suffer what I must not. Basil stares, a chill running through him. Lord Henry merely watches, a satisfied gleam in his eyes, the architect of a new, terrible beauty. Chapter 3. The Faustian bargain. The afternoon sun, though softened by heavy velvet, still found its way to illuminate the rich hues of Basil Hallward's studio, making the unfinished canvases seem to sigh with unspoken stories. Dorian Gray, elegant even in repose, reclined in a deep armchair, a faint smile playing on his lips as Lord Henry Wotton, perched lightly on a stool, wove another shimmering tapestry of words. Basil, meanwhile, moved with a distracted air amongst his paints, his brow furrowed with a familiar unease. And what is the true secret of life, dear Dorian? Lord Henry purred, his eyes glinting with amusement. Is it found in the quietude of art, as our good Basil believes, content to capture a moment and immortalize it? Or is it not, rather, in the very act of living, of experiencing, of burning with 1,000 different fires? Dorian leaned forward, captivated. To burn with 1,000 fires, Harry? Is that not to be consumed? Lord Henry chuckled, a dry, melodic sound. To be consumed, perhaps, but what a glorious conflagration! Youth, Dorian, youth is a flame. Most men smother it under the ashes of convention, of duty, of dull, predictable morality. They choose the path of slow decay, calling it wisdom. He paused, allowing the words to hang in the air like perfume. But you are different. You possess that exquisite spark that demands to be fanned into a roaring inferno, to blaze across the skies of London and leave a legend in its wake. Basil stopped stirring his palette, his voice low, almost a whisper of protest. Harry, you fill the boy's head with dangerous fancies. There is beauty in restraint, in the quiet unfolding of a good character. He glanced at Dorian, his gaze pleading. Don't listen to him, Dorian. He makes a cynic of every soul he touches. Lord Henry merely waved a dismissive hand. Nonsense, Basil. I merely encourage observation. Life is too short to merely be good. To be good is to be in harmony with oneself, and that is a truly dismal state of affairs. To be bad is to be in harmony with others, and that is delightful. Truly, the only way to get rid of a temptation is to yield to it. Resist it, and your soul grows sick with longing for the things it has forbidden to itself, with desire for what its monstrous laws have made monstrous and unlawful. Dorian's eyes widened, a flicker of something new, something almost hungry, igniting within them. To yield to temptation, he murmured, trying the phrase on his tongue. Is that not a perilous philosophy, Harry? Perilous for those who fear life, perhaps, Lord Henry countered smoothly, rising and walking to stand near Dorian, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial tone. But for those like you, Dorian, blessed with youth that will fade, and beauty that will wither, it is a revelation. Imagine, to live every impulse, to experience every passion, to absorb every sensation. To be truly free, untethered by the gray chains of a hypocritical world. To know that your youth, your incomparable youth, will be the instrument of your pleasure, not its sacrifice. Basil let out a frustrated sigh, abandoning his paints entirely. Harry, you poison him. You speak of life as if it were a costume drama, a series of fleeting moments to be adorned and discarded. There are consequences, there is soul, there is a path that leads to ruin. Lord Henry turned to Basil, a mocking smile on his lips. Ruin, my dear Basil, is merely a different kind of experience. And who is to say that the pursuit of sensation, the cultivation of self, is not its own form of art, its own kind of divine mission? Youth has no limits, no boundaries, save those society foolishly imposes. To pluck the rose before it withers, to drink the wine before it sours, to live before the curtain falls. His gaze drifted back to Dorian, holding his fixed attention. That, Dorian, is the only wisdom. The rest is but the dust of books and the chatter of old men. Dorian looked from Lord Henry to Basil, then back again. Basil's face was etched with worry, his pleas sounding suddenly hollow, puritanical even. But Lord Henry's words, sharp and glittering, resonated deep within him, touching a nerve he hadn't known existed. He felt a stir, a burgeoning desire for a life lived without reservation, a hunger for experiences his innocent world had never offered. He thought of the portrait, now covered, and a strange, potent longing filled him. To be as the portrait was, eternal in its youth, while he, Dorian Gray, explored every forbidden avenue Lord Henry so enticingly described. The seeds of a bargain, though silently struck, had truly taken root. Chapter 4. The love test. Sybil Vane. The morning light, usually a gentle friend in Basil Hallward's studio, now seemed to shimmer with an almost frantic energy, reflecting the incandescent joy that burst through the door. Dorian Gray entered, not merely walking, but almost floating, his eyes alight with a fire Basil had never witnessed. A new Dorian, utterly transformed from the languid youth he had painted. "Basil, my dearest Basil, you cannot imagine! You simply cannot!" His voice was a vibrant melody, brimming with an emotion so potent it seemed to spill into every corner of the room. "I have seen her again, and she is everything. More than everything I ever dreamed. Sybil Vane. Her name is Sybil Vane." Basil poised before his easel, a brush suspended mid-air, felt a familiar pang of apprehension, mingled with something akin to a quiet sorrow. "Dorian, my dear boy, what is this sudden rapture? You speak as if you've discovered a new star, not merely a provincial actress." Dorian laughed, a sound so genuine, so full of unburdened delight, it momentarily dispelled Basil's unease. "A star? No, Basil. A goddess! A queen! You should see her on stage. Last night she was Rosalind. She made me believe in Arden in love, in a world where every word was poetry and every gesture grace itself. She lives Shakespeare's heroines. She is them. When she speaks, the air itself vibrates with truth and beauty." He paced, unable to contain the surge of feeling. "I tell you, Basil, before her I was nothing, a mere shadow. She has taught me what love truly means. It is a purification, a revelation of the soul. I want to be worthy of her." Basil set his brush down, his gaze fixed on Dorian. "Dorian, my friend, this is all so sudden, so intense. Are you certain this is love, and not merely fascination with an illusion, a beautiful mirage conjured on the stage?" His voice was gentle, but laced with a subtle warning. "She is an actress, Dorian. What of her outside the theater?" "Outside the theater, she is even more divine!" Dorian insisted, turning sharply to face Basil, his features earnest. "Modest, innocent, utterly unaware of her own power. When she holds my hand, Basil, I feel an angel's touch. When she smiles, the world brightens. She is my art now, Basil, my very inspiration. You must meet her, both of you must." Just then, the door creaked open, and Lord Henry Wotton strolled in, his habitual indolent charm preceding him like a faint perfume. He cast a languid glance at Dorian's animated form, a knowing smile playing on his lips. "Ah, Dorian, my dear boy, one might suspect you've discovered the secret to eternal youth, or perhaps merely a new passion. Which is it?" Dorian beamed, rushing to greet him. "Harry, you are just in time! I have the most glorious news. I am in love, truly, madly, profoundly in love, with Sybil Vane, and I am taking you both to see her perform tomorrow night." "She is Juliet, then? Imagine." Lord Henry raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Juliet, you say? Excellent. A tragedy, then, from the outset." "Love, my dear Dorian, is always a tragedy or at best, a fleeting comedy. And marriage, of course, is neither. It is merely a habit, and a bad one at that. Don't tell me you intend to marry this enchanting Miss Vane." He paused, allowing the question to hang in the air, a silken trap. Dorian's smile wavered for a fraction of a second, then solidified into fierce resolve. "I do. I am engaged to her, Harry. We are to be married." Basil flinched, a sharp intake of breath. The brush he had picked up again clattered to the floor. His face seemed to pale, the light in his eyes dimming. The vibrant color had drained from his world. Lord Henry, however, merely chuckled softly, a low purring sound. "Engaged? My dear Dorian, how delightfully impulsive, how utterly romantic, and how perfectly unwise asterisk. But then, wisdom is wasted on youth, isn't it? Only a fool would marry for love. Yet, it promises to be a most interesting experiment. Basil, do pick up your brush. Your muse, it seems, has decided to elope with a dream." His eyes, however, were fixed on Dorian, a glint of perverse satisfaction dancing within them. He had planted a seed, and now watched it blossom into something wild and unpredictable. The love test had begun. Chapter 5. When art fails life, our stage now shifts, not to grand drawing rooms, nor painters' studios, but to a humble, sun-dappled lodging in London, where life's simplest yet most profound drama unfolded. Here lived Sybil Vane, a slip of a girl whose essence seemed woven from starlight and tragic prose. Now, love had touched her, transforming her utterly. Her world, once a mere backdrop, had erupted into vivid, thrilling reality. She walked with new lightness, her eyes, once pools of melancholy, now sparkled with uncontainable joy. She spoke of her Prince Charming, a melody on her lips, a secret she could no longer keep from her practical, weary mother or fiercely protective brother James. James Vane, a young man perpetually furrowed with seriousness, watched his sister with unease. He was a creature of earth, bound by impending emigration to Australia, far removed from the romantic fancies Sybil spun. He saw the glint of gold in Prince Charming's cufflinks, heard his polished cadence, and knew, with chilling certainty, this was not a man for a girl like Sybil. His heart, heavy with farewells, throbbed with dark premonition. He'd warned her, whispered dire prophecies against the suave predator he sensed behind the mask, but Sybil, enveloped in her dream, only smiled, convinced of her lover's nobility. The day of James's departure dawned gray and fraught with unspoken anxieties. He embraced his sister tightly, his strong arms a shield against the world. "Promise me, Sybil," he urged, his voice rough, "that if he ever wrongs you, if he hurts you, I will find him. No matter where I am, I will come back for him." Sybil, innocent and resolute, swore belief in her beloved, dismissing his fears as a brother's wild imaginings. She waved him off, a poignant figure against the drab London street, her heart soaring, yet a cold seed of apprehension planted by his words. But the true drama, the very heart of this chapter, lay not in external farewells, but in the quiet, devastating internal shift within Sybil herself. For weeks, as her love for Dorian deepened, a peculiar thing had begun to happen to her art. The footlights, once a sacred boundary, now seemed to mock her. The words of Juliet, Rosalind, or Imogen, once so alive, now felt hollow and empty echo. How could she weep feigned tears for Romeo when her own heart overflowed with a joy more potent than any stage could conjure? How could she pretend to pine for fictional love when true, boundless affection had claimed her soul? This was the cruel paradox. Her life had become so exquisitely real, her art, once her refuge, could no longer compete. Her talent, nourished by imagining, found itself suffocated by authentic emotion. When art fails life, it is because life has outgrown its artistic representation. Sybil Vane, the brilliant actress, was dissolving, consumed by Sybil Vane, the woman in love. Her power lay in convincing others of falsehoods. Now, she was utterly convinced by truth. And in this truth, her artistic magic, her ability to embody the plays vanished. The stage awaited her. Dorian Gray, blind to the profound internal revolution that rendered his little artist incapable of her craft, was eager for the next performance. He looked forward to the spectacle. She faced a terrifying, beautiful void, where her art, unable to contain the boundless reality of her heart, had simply ceased to exist. Chapter 6. The first stain on the soul. A hazy London morning, sunlight struggling to pierce through the drawn blinds of Lord Henry Wotton's drawing room. The air, thick with the scent of lilies and forgotten pipe smoke, seemed to hum with an expectant stillness. Lord Henry himself, languidly stirring his tea, was in that peculiar state of post-breakfast contemplation, where the world's follies presented themselves as exquisite intellectual puzzles. The sudden, unannounced burst of Dorian Gray into the room shattered the quietude, yet Lord Henry merely raised an eyebrow, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. Dorian, flushed and radiant, looked as if he had swallowed the very essence of dawn. His eyes gleamed with an astonishing, almost feverish excitement. He barely paused for breath before declaring, "Harry, I am engaged." Lord Henry's teacup, poised elegantly, did not tremble. "Engaged? My dear boy, to whom?" "Not to life itself, I trust. That would be a dreadful bore." "Is it one of those delightful creatures from the chorus line you've been raving about?" Dorian laughed, a bright, clear sound. "To Sybil Vane, of course. Who else could it be? She is the most wonderful girl in the world, Harry. Pure as a lily and a genius. Last night, she was Rosalind, and I swear, the very air in the theater vibrated with her truth. Her every gesture, every intonation, spoke of a beauty that transcends mere artifice. It was a revelation, Harry, a complete revelation." Lord Henry's smile widened, a touch of amusement dancing in his eyes. "A revelation, you say? And for this revelation, you've offered her your hand in marriage. My dear Dorian, you move with a charming, if somewhat alarming, rapidity. Marriage, is a rather serious affair, not one to be undertaken lightly, especially not by a connoisseur of beauty such as yourself. One should never marry Dorian. To do so is to confess a profound lack of imagination. Dorian's joyous expression faltered slightly. You mock me, Harry. But you don't understand. She is different. She has made me different. I used to be a mere specter, a shadow chasing shadows. Now I feel alive, truly alive, for the first time. She has shown me the soul of things, the truth beneath the painted surface. When she acts, she is everything. She asterisk is asterisk Juliet. She asterisk is asterisk Imogen. She asterisk is asterisk Rosalind. And when she is Sybil, she is more than all of them. She is herself, and that self is perfection. A shadow fell across the doorway as Basil Hallward entered, his artist's eyes immediately sensing the charged atmosphere. He glanced from the incandescent Dorian to the subtly amused Lord Henry, a frown already beginning to form between his brows. What is all this excitement? Dorian, you look as though you've discovered the Philosopher's Stone. Dorian, still vibrating with his news, turned to his old friend.
Basil, the best news! I am going to be married!
Basil's face drained of color. The faint flush that had tinted his cheeks earlier vanished, replaced by a pallor that spoke of genuine distress. Married.
Dorian, are you serious? To whom? Not to that actress girl? His voice held a note of genuine horror. Yes, to Sybil Vane!
Dorian retorted, a flash of defensiveness in his eyes. Why do you both look at me as if I've announced I'm joining a monastery? She is magnificent, beautiful, talented, innocent. She is everything I could ever want. Basil wrung his hands, his gaze pleading. Dorian, you are so young, so impressionable. You idealize her.
This is madness. You hardly know her. And an actress, Dorian. Think of your position, your future? This is not like you.
And what is like me, Basil? Dorian asked, a subtle edge to his voice. To be a pretty plaything for your canvas, to sit in silence and allow you to project your own ridiculous notions of purity onto me? I am a man, Basil, and I love a woman. She gives me life, she inspires me. You speak of innocence, yet you cling to a world where innocence is only possible if it's trapped in a gilded cage. Sybil is free, she creates beauty, she embodies art. Lord Henry, observing the exchange with the detached fascination of a scientist studying a particularly interesting chemical reaction, finally interjected. Come now, Basil. Don't be so terribly Victorian. Love is a delightful illusion, and marriage merely its legal certificate. If Dorian finds happiness, or at least an intriguing new experience, in this young woman, who are we to gainsay him? Besides, an actress, you say? That sounds remarkably stimulating. She will, no doubt, provide him with a constant stream of fresh emotions, each more theatrical than the last. She is not a novelty, Harry! She is my world! Dorian insisted, though Lord Henry's words, like subtle poison, had already begun to filter into the pristine chamber of his infatuation. He felt a flicker of something, a slight disquiet, but quickly pushed it away. You must both see her tonight. She is playing Juliet. You will understand then. You will both see her genius and her purity, and you will both be forced to admit I am right. Basil sighed, running a hand through his hair. Dorian, I simply don't know what to say. I worry for you. Truly I do. He looked at Lord Henry, a silent accusation in his eyes. Lord Henry merely smiled, a knowing, almost mischievous glint in his gaze. Juliet, eh? How very appropriate. Very well, Dorian. We shall accompany you. I confess my curiosity is piqued. I have always been fascinated by the precise moment at which the stage becomes the world, and the world merely a stage. Tonight, perhaps, we shall witness a master performance, both on and off the boards. As the three men prepared to depart, the air, which had seemed to clear earlier, now felt heavier, imbued with an unspoken tension. Dorian, oblivious in his youthful ardor, saw only the path to his happiness. But in the quiet corners of the room, unseen by him, the first faint whispers of an impending storm, the precursors to a profound moral compromise, began to stir. The stage was set, not just for a play, but for the intricate, unfolding drama of a soul. Chapter 7. The point of no return. The gaslight flickered, painting the shabby auditorium. Dorian, between the languid Lord Henry and watchful Basil, felt a tremor of pride and burgeoning anxiety. He'd promised a goddess his Sybil. The air, thick with cheap perfume and stale beer, starkly contrasted the exquisite beauty he cherished. The curtain jutted open. Sybil Vane appeared, Juliet in innocence, but something was immediately, devastatingly amiss. Her voice, usually a nightingale's delight, was flat, devoid of passion, each word a hesitant, hollow echo. Her movements, once graceful, were now clumsy, her gestures wooden. Murmurs of disappointment rippled. Lord Henry merely arched a brow, a faint, mocking smile. Basil winced, brow furrowed. But Dorian, his heart sinking, felt a cold, furious shame. This was not his Sybil, but a pale, pathetic ghost. The act concluded. Dorian, jaw tight, scarcely spoke as they went backstage, a corridor reeking of dust and grease paint. He found Sybil tear-streaked, huddled. "Dorian," she whispered, a broken melody. "Oh, my love."
"Forgive me, forgive you,"
he retorted, his voice edged with ice. All tenderness vanished.
"You have disgraced yourself. You have made a public spectacle of me. You were horrible, Sybil, simply horrible."
She looked at him, eyes wide.
"Don't you see, dearest?"
"I couldn't act. You taught me true love. Stage shadows ceased to be real. How could I feign a passion I truly felt? Juliet's love was a poor echo of mine. It was all false pretense, and I hated it. You freed me from theater, from lies." He stared, then with disgust.
"You killed my love,"
he hissed. "You were nothing but an artist. Without your art, you are nothing. I hate you for spoiling my life, murdering my ideal. You are shallow and stupid." He turned, leaving her shattered. The door slammed, sealing her fate and his own. He walked the deserted London streets, a strange mix of relief and anger swirling. Cruel, yes, but she'd betrayed his expectations, shattered his dream. He felt a sudden lightness, liberated from her flawed reality. Reaching his home, he ascended to his studio, mind drifting to other thoughts. Then, he saw it, the portrait. In faint moonlight, it seemed different. The beautifully modeled lips now held a subtle, unmistakable curl of cruelty. A harshness, a faint sneer around the mouth. He gasped, blood running cold. No trick of light. The bargain, the monstrous wish, had been heard. The picture had altered. Terror washed over him. This was the price, his soul bearing corruption's scars, his body unsullied. A line crossed, a Rubicon forged in malice. No going back from this first, hideous marring of his painted soul. The path stretched dark, inexorable, paved by monstrous desires. No longer merely a young man admiring his reflection, he was an accomplice to supernatural horror, sealed by a cruel word and a changing brushstroke. The point of no return was a choice made backstage, confirmed by a silent, painted witness. Chapter 8. The Yellow Book, a poisonous guide. The morning after, a strange, hollow quiet settled upon Dorian Gray, a silence deeper than any he had ever known, broken only by the faint, mocking echo of his own indifference. He had shattered a soul, a fragile, vibrant thing, and yet, instead of the expected agony, there was only a vast, empty space where remorse should have been. A peculiar sense of liberation, almost illicit, stirred within him the knowledge that he had dared and survived. It was into this moral vacuum that Lord Henry Wotton, ever the elegant serpent, glided. His words, like carefully sculpted jewels, polished the rough edges of Dorian's guilt, transforming the sordid tragedy of Sybil Vane's death into a beautiful, albeit melancholic, artistic sacrifice. She was a dream, Lord Henry had purred, and dreams are not meant to last. And with each silken phrase, Dorian's nascent conscience withered a little more, replaced by a gleaming shell of aesthetic justification. Then came the book. A slim volume, bound in yellow paper, its pages still crisp, its scent faintly intoxicating. Lord Henry, with a casual gesture that belied its profound intent, laid it upon Dorian's lap. "You will find it quite fascinating," he had said, a glint in his eyes that suggested he knew precisely the havoc it would wreak. It was a novel, Lord Henry explained, without a plot in the conventional sense, but rather the story of a young Parisian, a seeker of exquisite sensations, a connoisseur of vice, who embraced an almost pagan worship of beauty and artifice. It was a mirror, Dorian would soon discover, reflecting not the world as it was, but as it could be, stripped bare of moral cant and societal stricture. Dorian took the book, its very touch seeming to hum with forbidden knowledge. He began to read, at first with a detached curiosity, then with an increasing, ravenous hunger. The prose was languid, luxurious, weaving spells with every sentence, painting vivid tapestries of a life lived solely for sensation, for the accumulation of rare and beautiful experiences, for the cultivation of one's own personality as the supreme art form. It spoke of strange poisons, of exotic perfumes, of silks and jewels, of ancient myths reimagined, of sins rebaptized with the names of virtues. It was a compendium of all that Lord Henry had whispered in his ear, now codified, made tangible, given a seductive, philosophical weight. Hours bled into days, days into weeks. The Yellow Book became Dorian's constant companion, nestled beneath his pillow, carried in his pocket, its pages dog-eared from relentless perusal. He reread it countless times, not merely consuming its narrative, but absorbing its very essence into his soul. It became his guide, his scripture, his poisonous catechism. It justified his every burgeoning desire, every fleeting temptation, offering a grand, overarching aesthetic to rationalize the pursuit of pleasure, no matter its cost to others, or indeed, to himself. It taught him to view life as an experiment, a grand theatrical production, with himself as the leading actor, the audience, and the ultimate critic. The world outside the book began to dim, its colors less vibrant, its conventional morality dull and tiresome. The Parisian youth, the book's protagonist, became a phantom brother, a shadowy mentor, whose every transgressive act and philosophical musing resonated deeply within Dorian. The lines between fiction and reality blurred until the Yellow Book's philosophy was no longer merely a story, but the very blueprint for his existence. It was a seduction of the mind, a corruption of the spirit, a gradual, exquisite poisoning that seeped into every fiber of his being, promising endless beauty and sensation, but delivering only a deeper, more profound emptiness, masked by the glittering facade of a life lived for artifice alone. The portrait, with its silent, dreadful testament, was the only witness to the metamorphosis that the Yellow Book meticulously orchestrated. Chapter 9. The double life. The scene opens in Dorian Gray's lavish drawing room, late afternoon. Sunlight, though bright outside, struggles to fully penetrate the room, casting long shadows. Dorian, impeccably dressed, is lounging on a divan, a volume of poetry half open beside him. A light ripple of unease seems to cling to the otherwise perfect stillness. A butler announces Basil Hallward. Ask narrator Kolonisk. The quiet afternoon, a deceptive shroud for the tumult brewing beneath the polished surfaces of London society. Even in Dorian Gray's exquisite home, where beauty was the prevailing deity, a darker current had begun to stir. The very air, once vibrant with youthful promise, now hummed with unspoken anxieties, whispers carried on the wind from drawing rooms and clubs. And here, into this gilded cage of secret life, stepped Basil Hallward, his heart heavy with an affection that had, of late, become indistinguishable from dread. Basil enters, looking older, more strained than one remembers him. His eyes are troubled as they fall upon Dorian, who offers a languid smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. Strex Basil Kolunstrisk. Dorian. I confess, I've been most anxious about you. It has been too long. Ashk Dorian Kolench. Basil, my dear fellow. Anxious? Whatever for? One would think I had vanished into the fogs of the East End. Sit. You look as though you've carried the world's worries on your shoulders. Ashk Basil Kolenchsk. Perhaps I have. Or at least, a significant portion of yours. Dorian. One hears things. Whispers, idle gossip, no doubt, but when they accumulate, a certain weight begins to press upon one's spirit. Aschesk. Dorian Kolusk. Whispers. My dear Basil, society thrives on whispers. One is either the subject of them or utterly forgotten. And I assure you, have no intention of being forgotten. Pass me that silver box, will you? Dorian gestures dismissively towards a snuff box. Basil doesn't move immediately, his gaze fixed on Dorian. Strexk Basil Kolanstrisk. These are not mere trifles, Dorian. They concern your character, your associations. People speak of the company you keep, of influences, corrosive influences. They speak of young men whose lives you've seemingly led astray, of reputations tarnished. A stressed Dorian Kolask. A light, dismissive laugh. My dear Basil, are you becoming a Puritan? Or perhaps a moralist? Society is so frightfully dull if one confines oneself to the righteous path. Besides, what concern is it of yours? Belmec. What concern? Dorian, you were once everything to me. My art, my inspiration, my soul poured onto canvas. You were purity, beauty personified. How can it not concern me when I hear tales that suggest the very opposite? People even say Lord Henry has become a detrimental force in your life. Sheik Dorian Kolent Shidisk, a slight stiffening in his posture. Lord Henry is a brilliant conversationalist. He merely illuminates the world for me in ways others cannot. He has taught me the value of living life to its fullest, not shrinking from its possibilities. Ask Basil Koleng. Stepping closer, his voice dropping to a heartfelt plea. Possibilities, yes. But at what cost, Dorian? My heart aches when I think of the radiant boy I painted, the soul I believed I saw. I loved you, Dorian. I still do. And it pains me beyond measure to think of you squandering that beauty, that inherent goodness, on what people are saying.
Dorian Coley.
Chuck. A flicker of something dark in his eyes, quickly masked by an air of boredom. People always say something, Basil. Let them talk. I merely live my life. Ask Basil Kolansk. But what life is it, Dorian? It is this terrible duality that vexes me. The world sees your flawless face, your effortless charm, and yet one hears these other things. It's as if you live two lives, and the one you conceal, that is the one I fear. Remember the portrait, Dorian. The one I painted, my masterpiece. I wish to see it again. I have a peculiar longing to gaze upon it. I wonder if it still holds the same truth. Dorian freezes, a cold dread washing over him. The mention of the portrait, his terrible secret, is a jarring chord in the carefully constructed symphony of his detachment. Ashtik Dorian Kolanchk voice taut, sharp the portrait? No, Basil. It is not available for viewing. It is in storage. I grew tired of it, you see. Artists are so sentimental about their work, but subjects move on. Ashk Basil Kolenchk eyes filled with a profound sadness. Is that truly it? Or is there something else you wish to hide? Something you fear I might discern? Dorian, look at me. Confide in me. Let me help you. Whatever you have done, whatever darkness you believe clings to you, it can be purged. Repentance, atonement, they are powerful forces. Ashtik Dorian Kolensk rising abruptly, a sudden surge of anger in his voice. Though still controlled, you are being impertinent. Basil, I have nothing to repent for. My life is my own, and I will not have you, or anyone, dissecting it with your moralizing pronouncements. The portrait is hidden, and there it shall remain. It is finished, past, a mere echo of a fleeting moment.
Leave it. Leave me.
The force of Dorian's refusal hangs heavy in the air. Basil recoils slightly, his hope visibly draining from him. He looks at Dorian, seeing a stranger in the familiar face. Asterisk Basil Kalask quietly, heartbroken. Very well, Dorian, if that is your wish. But know this, I pray for you. I pray that you find your way back to the man I knew, the man I immortalized. This double life, it cannot sustain itself forever. Basil turns, his shoulders slumped, and slowly exits the room. Dorian watches him go, a tremor running through his perfectly composed exterior. Once Basil is gone, Dorian walks to the window, staring out at the fading light, his beautiful features twisted with a momentary anguish. The room feels colder, larger, empty. He is alone with his secret, his double life, and the terrible, silent truth hidden upstairs. Asterisk narrator Kolenskin, so, the master of his own fate, or so he believed, was left once more in the solitude he had so carefully cultivated. The words of Basil, once a trusted friend, now merely an irritating echo. But the unspoken truth, the grotesque mockery of his own soul, hidden beneath a purple cloth in a locked room, continued its silent, horrifying vigil. The mask of indifference was back in place, yet for a fleeting instant, the terror of his double life, the chilling proximity of the beautiful lie to the monstrous truth, had broken through. The game he knew grew more perilous with each passing day. The threads of his unraveling existence were tightening, and the portrait, a silent accomplice and a damning witness, waited patiently. Chapter 10 Confrontation with the Creator. The gas jet still hissed, a thin, malevolent whisper in the suddenly silent room. The single crimson stain on the Turkish rug seemed to pulsate, a grotesque heart beating out of time. Dorian Gray stood, quite still, a curious calm settling over him, colder than the dawn that would soon crack the London sky. He looked at the huddled form, a mere heap of cloth now, where Basil Hallward had so recently poured out his heart, then his life. The first tremor of fear was not for what he had done, but for what he must do. A body, a corpse. It lay there, an eloquent accusation demanding disposal. His mind, clear and sharp as a newly honed blade, sifted through possibilities. Fire, too much smoke, too much ash, burial. Impossible in the heart of London. Chemicals? Yes, chemicals. The thought sparked a name, a ghost from a past, purer self. Alan Campbell. Alan, the brilliant, reclusive chemist, whose friendship Dorian had once savored, then discarded like a wilted flower. Alan, whose life Dorian had once, inadvertently, almost joyfully ruined. There was a secret there, a dark shadow Dorian had helped cast over Alan's youth, a lever he could still press. Dorian retrieved his hat and coat, his movements unhurried, almost elegant. The world outside was still asleep, a convenient shroud. He walked through the chill streets, the metallic tang of fear mingling with the city's damp breath. Alan Campbell's house was a fortress of intellect and isolation, the windows dark, mirroring the soul within. Dorian knocked, a polite, insistent summons. After a long moment, a maid peered through the crack, then admitted him into a silent, austere hall, redolent with the faint, scientific smells of a laboratory. Alan Campbell descended the stairs, a figure drawn in stark lines, his face pale, marked by years of withdrawal. His eyes, once bright with curiosity, now held a deep, unreadable melancholy. He stiffened, recognition a painful lash. Asked Alan Campbell, his voice thin, strained Dorian. To what do I owe this unexpected visit, at such an hour? Asked Dorian, graced calm, almost regretful, yet with an undertone of steel. Alan, my dear fellow, forgive my intrusion. But I find myself in a situation of some delicacy, a matter only you, with your remarkable talents, can resolve. Alan's jaw tightened. He knew that tone. He knew the cost of Dorian's delicacy. Alan Campbell stressed, I am no longer in a position to assist you, Dorian. My life is dedicated to my work. Dorian graced a faint, chilling smile touching his lips. Indeed, your work, your reputation, your quiet existence, all things I dare say you value highly. Dorian's eyes fixed on Alan's, a silent battle waged. Alan's face contorted, a mixture of fear, hatred, and a crushing despair. He knew, Dorian knew, and he was not above using it. Dorian Gray come, Alan. A man has died, accidentally, I assure you, but his presence here, in my house at this hour, would be inconvenient. Highly so. Alan's gaze flickered, a shiver running through him. The implication hung heavy in the air. Alan Campbell asked, whispering, barely audible, a man, you speak of a murder. Dorian Gress softly, but with absolute conviction, I speak of a necessity, a problem that requires a unique solution. You are a man of science, Alan. You understand the power of reagents, the transformative nature of acids. Alan recoiled, his face blanching further. He understood perfectly. He also understood the choice laid before him: compliance or utter ruin. Dorian, the beautiful demon, held his past, his present, and his future in his manicured hand. Alan Campbell's voice shaking, barely able to form the words, no. I cannot. It is monstrous. Dorian Gray's, leaning closer, his voice dropping to a silken, dangerous murmur. Monstrous, perhaps, but unavoidable. And if you refuse, Alan, consider the consequences. The world has a memory, a cruel one, for certain indiscretions. And I have documents, letters, details. Things that would shatter your carefully constructed solitude, your scientific esteem. They would expose you irrevocably. Alan closed his eyes, a silent scream trapped in his throat. The memory of his past, the shame, the horror Dorian had so casually inflicted and now threatened to resurrect, was a chains binding him tighter than any physical manacle. He saw his life crumbling, his work disgraced, his very name a byword for scandal. Alan Campbell, opening his eyes, filled with a terrible, resigned hatred. What do you want me to do? Dorian grasped a sigh of satisfaction, almost imperceptible. Return with me. You will require certain apparatus, a strong acid, nitric acid perhaps, sufficient to dissolve a body, leave no trace. Alan stared at him, aghast, then at the floor, seeing not the elegant Persian rug, but the gruesome task ahead. He was no longer a man of science, but an instrument of pure, cold evil. The destruction of Basil Hallward, the artist, the creator, would be complete, erased not by time, but by chemistry. And Alan Campbell, once Dorian's friend, now his reluctant accomplice, would be forever stained. The chapter of their shared innocence, long since closed, was now irrevocably sealed with acid and blood. Chapter 11. The face of sin. Our story continues with a chilling shift in Dorian Gray's soul. Sybil Vane's shadow, once a delicate bruise, faded, replaced by Lord Henry's insidious gift, that curious yellow book. It became not merely a distraction, but the veritable Bible of his new life. Its pages, bound in gold-stamped leather, told tales of emperors and aesthetes, of unbridled passions and lives lived solely for sensation. Dorian devoured it, finding in its perfumed prose a terrifying mirror to his stirring inclinations. It whispered of a philosophy where sin was ugliness, and virtue, beauty a dangerous creed for a man whose youth was eternally preserved, and whose sins were borne by a canvas. The portrait, his dreadful secret, assumed a new, profound significance. No longer a mere wonder, it was his terrible ledger, his confession in brushstrokes of decay. Locked away behind a silken curtain, it still called. Nightly, morbid fascination compelled his feet up the silent stairs. He'd draw back the veil, heart a frantic bird, and gaze upon the deepening cruelty, the subtle lip twist, the faint, disquieting sheen in the eyes. Each change, however slight, was a fresh wound, a fresh thrill. It was proof he was free, could live as he pleased, and yet remain outwardly pristine. Thus began the grand deception. To the world, Dorian Gray remained the captivating, unblemished youth, Prince Paradox. His charm undiminished, wit sharper, beauty a marvel. Society adored him, blind to the festering corruption the portrait chronicled. He dined with duchesses, debated with philosophers, danced through gilded ballrooms, all while knowing the true price of his eternal youth. He was an exquisite actor, playing innocence, while beneath, he charted new territories of vice with a scientist's meticulousness. His life became aesthetic experiments, pursuing beauty with a perverse twist. He collected rare tapestries, jewels of cold brilliance. He delved into perfume's narcotic power, studied music's sway, but this was merely the beginning. The book led him to darker realms, opium dens, where dreams suffocated, obscure cults, their rituals and perversions fascinating him. He probed human experience's darker corners, dissecting passions and crimes with detached curiosity, always seeking new sensation, a deeper thrill, a profounder understanding of his soul's boundaries or its lack. He fashioned a philosophy, a monstrous hybrid of Lord Henry's hedonism and his own escalating depravity. Life, he reasoned, was raw material for art. His existence, a canvas for any scene, however grotesque, without marring the original. Conscience, morality, guilt, mere shadows of outdated superstitions, inconvenient fetters. He saw himself an aesthetic pioneer, charting a course beyond good and evil, always with that hideous, silent judge locked away upstairs. Yet, for all his companions in adulation, he was terribly alone. The portrait, confidant and accuser, isolated him more profoundly than any barrier. No one truly knew him. The truth of his being lay concealed in that darkened room, too horrifying for mortal eyes. He lived in perpetual vigilance, a constant fear gnawing at his elaborate facade, lest someone stumble upon his secret. His cherished beauty became both shield and prison. And so, Dorian Gray embraced his monstrous bargain. His youth remained, outwardly perfect, a cruel mockery of the decay within. But upstairs, in that locked room, the portrait ripened, each day adding another layer of putrefaction, another mark of cruelty, an indelible stain. It was no longer just a picture, it was the chilling, unmistakable face of sin itself, patiently awaiting reckoning. Chapter 12. The ultimate sin, murder. The chill of November had settled over London, mirroring the frost that had begun to form around Dorian Gray's very soul. The world, or at least his gilded corner of it, still saw him as an exemplar of youth and charm, untouched by the scandals whispered in drawing rooms. But beneath the surface, a festering darkness pulsed, ready to erupt. It was into this carefully constructed illusion that Basil Hallward, the artist whose hands had once lovingly shaped Dorian's image, arrived. His face was etched with a profound weariness, his eyes heavy with an unarticulated grief. He had come not as a friend seeking companionship, but as a conscience, burdened by the terrible rumors clinging to Dorian's name like a shroud. Dorian, Basil began, his voice barely above a whisper, "I am going away to Paris. I felt I had to see you first. Things are said about you, things I don't want to believe. Tales of lives blighted, of young men led astray, of women undone. My dear boy, deny them, tell me they are monstrous lies concocted by envious tongues." Dorian listened, a strange cold smile playing upon his lips. His heart, long since a stranger to true tenderness, throbbed with a different kind of beat, one of irritation, then a cold, creeping fury. Basil, always so earnest, so moralistic, was treading on dangerous ground. He was threatening the carefully guarded secret, the monstrous truth hidden behind a purple curtain. "Basil," Dorian said, his voice deceptively soft, "you say you wish to know the truth. You who once put your very soul into that painting? Come, I will show you the secret of my life." A strange foreboding settled over Basil as Dorian led him up the winding staircase, each creaking step a testament to the years that had passed, years that had twisted the beautiful into the grotesque. At the locked schoolroom door, Dorian paused, a glint in his eye, a hint of the perverse pleasure he derived from unveiling his horror. The moment the curtain was drawn, Basil recoiled, a gasp tearing from his throat. The portrait, once a sublime testament to innocence and beauty, now leered back at him, a canvas of unimaginable depravity. It was Dorian, and yet it was a stranger, a demon forged in the crucible of sin. The once pure eyes were now alight with cunning and cruelty, the once sensual mouth now twisted into a hideous sneer. A crimson stain, like dried blood, seemed to seep from the hand, a grotesque parody of life. "My God!" Basil cried, his voice choked with horror and pity. "It is you, Dorian! It is the face of your soul! You have truly destroyed yourself. Repent, Dorian. Pray for forgiveness. This is not too late, not yet." His words, meant to pierce through the darkness, only stoked the inferno within Dorian. Repent, forgive. Basil was not offering salvation. He was holding up a mirror to a truth Dorian could not, would not, bear. The portrait, a constant, silent accuser, was enough. He did not need a living, breathing conscience to condemn him. A primal, instinctual rage seized him. Basil had seen too much. Basil knew too much. Basil was a threat. In a blur of motion, Dorian snatched a long, keen carving knife from a nearby table, a memento of some forgotten feast. There was a sudden, sickening thud, a choked cry, then silence. Basil Hallward crumpled to the floor, the knife buried deep in his throat, his last gasp a desperate whisper lost to the unseeing eyes of the monstrous portrait. Dorian stood over the body, the knife still clutched in his hand, droplets of warm blood clinging to its polished surface. A strange calm washed over him, chilling and absolute. The constant hum of Basil's moralizing had been silenced. The secret, his hideous secret, was safe. The ultimate sin had been committed, not out of passion, but out of a cold, calculated necessity. The portrait, his terrible burden, now bore witness to an act that had truly damned him beyond all hope. He was alone, utterly and irrevocably, in his beautiful, terrifying prison of self. Chapter 13. The clean up the world for a moment had ceased its spinning. There was only the dreadful red stain spreading on the rug, a dark bloom consuming the intricate patterns of Basil's last masterpiece. A chill, more profound than any winter's night, crept into Dorian's very bones, yet his mind, paradoxically, was a furnace of frantic calculation. Not remorse, no. That particular luxury of the soul seemed to have abandoned him long ago. This was a purely pragmatic terror, the gnawing fear of exposure. He looked at the dead man, then at the portrait, a frantic glance, for the painting, in its hideous transformation, now bore the fresh, glistening mark of blood, starkly vivid against its corrupted canvas. It mocked him, this monstrous mirror of his soul, a silent witness more damning than any living eye. A solution. There must be a solution. His hands trembled, not with fear, but with a cold, desperate energy. Poison. He had many in his collection, swift and silent, but the body, the bulk of it, to move it, to bury it, was beyond his skill, beyond his nerve. No, it needed a mind of a particular cast, a hand that understood the terrible alchemy of dissolution. Alan Campbell. The name surfaced from the murky depths of his memory, a name he had long ago cast aside, like an old, outgrown garment. Alan, the brilliant scientist, the man who had once been so passionately devoted to him, before the inevitable disillusionment, before Dorian's shadow had fallen upon his earnest, scholarly world. Campbell, with his dissecting instruments, his chemicals, his knowledge of things that unraveled the very fabric of existence. It was late, very late, but time was a luxury Basil no longer possessed, and Dorian could ill afford to waste it. He pulled on a cloak, his movements precise, almost surgical, as if he were already cleansing himself of the deed. A cab was hailed, cutting through the spectral London fog, carrying him to the quiet square where Campbell lived, amidst his apparatus and his solitude. The door was opened by a startled butler, then by Campbell himself, gaunt and pale, his spectacles perched on his nose, a scientific journal in his hand. Recognition warred with an instinctive repulsion on his face. "Dorian," Campbell said, his voice clipped cool. "To what do I owe this unexpected visit?" Dorian stepped into the hallway, pulling off his gloves slowly, deliberately, his gaze unwavering. "Alan, I have need of you. A terrible, urgent need. Something only you can do." Campbell's lips thinned. "My dear Dorian, our acquaintance, as you well know, ceased some time ago. I prefer to keep it that way." "You cannot," Dorian stated, the words a low hiss. "Because if you refuse, you will regret it more than anything you have ever done in your life." A flicker of fear, quickly masked by defiance, crossed Campbell's face. "I refuse to be threatened, Dorian." "Indeed? Then let me simply remind you of a certain night, Alan. A certain letter, a certain young man. The ruin it would bring, the scandal that would devour your reputation, your career, your very standing in society. I possess the proof, Alan, and I am quite prepared to use it." Campbell blanched. The color drained from his face, leaving it the hue of ash. His hand, clutching the journal, trembled violently. You fiend," he whispered, the words barely audible. "What monstrous thing do you ask?" "To dispose of a body," Dorian replied, his voice chillingly devoid of emotion. "Completely, utterly, so that no trace remains. Tonight." The horror on Campbell's face was absolute, a raw, naked terror that Dorian savored with a cold, intellectual curiosity. Alan paced, his breath coming in ragged gasps, his hands clenching and unclenching. He pleaded, he reasoned, he threatened. But Dorian remained impassive, a marble statue of resolute cruelty. The name of the unfortunate young man, whispered once more, was the final hammer blow. Campbell broke. He sank into a chair, his head in his hands, a broken thing. "God forgive you, Dorian, and God forgive me." The journey back was in silence, a heavy, suffocating silence punctuated only by the clatter of Campbell's scientific equipment. Jars of acids, strange compounds, the tools of obliteration. The library, when they returned, seemed to hold its breath. The dead man was still there, a silent accusation. Campbell, a man transformed by dread, worked with a grim, terrible efficiency. He instructed Dorian to fetch a specific type of fabric to seal the doors and windows against any errant scent. Then, he set to his grim task. Dorian watched, fascinated and repulsed, as the scientific process began. The bubbling concoctions, the rising vapors, the almost alchemical dissolution of flesh and bone into a formless, nameless use. It was ghastly, yet executed with such clinical detachment, such precise horror, that it almost seemed a natural, albeit terrible, act of science. The air grew thick with a faint, cloying sweetness, a smell that clung to the velvet curtains, the polished wood. For nearly 5 hours, Campbell labored, his face set in a rigid mask of disgust and despair. When he was done, the area where Basil had lain was spotless. There was no body, no blood, no tangible trace of the murder. Only a faint, lingering odor and a profound, aching emptiness where a man had been. Campbell stood, wiping his hands, his eyes refusing to meet Dorian's. "It is finished," he said, his voice flat. "Dead, now let me out. I never wish to see you again, never." Dorian offered a cold, perfunctory thanks, watching the shattered scientist depart into the dawn. A quiet triumph settled in his chest, a fleeting sense of mastery. The secret was safe, the cleanup was complete. But as he glanced at the portrait, the grotesque image seemed to twist further, its painted eyes now holding not just Basil's blood, but a deeper, more insidious stain, the utter ruin of Alan Campbell. The ledger of his soul, in that terrible painted mirror, had just acquired another far more complex and utterly unforgivable entry. Chapter 14. The ghost of the past. The chamber, once a sanctuary of art and beauty, now lay under a pall of an entirely different kind. The gaslight on the mantelpiece cast long, dancing shadows, playing macabre games with the stillness of the air. Our eyes, like Dorian's, cannot help but fall upon the velvet cloth draped over a form on the floor, an eloquent testament to the night's grim harvest. The narrator's voice, a low, inviting murmur, draws us into this chilling tableau. Narrator: the dawn after the deed. A dawn that brought no solace, no cleansing light, only the cold, hard logic of consequence. Dorian Gray, usually so perfectly composed, now found himself wrestling with a stark, brutal reality. Basil Hallward, the man who had laid his very soul bare on canvas, now lay a silent, accusing heap. Panic, yes, a searing wave of it, but not of remorse. No, this was the primal, reptilian dread of discovery, the urgent need to erase the inconvenient truth. His mind, ever agile in its pursuit of fleeting pleasures, now bent its formidable will to the grim mechanics of disappearance. He knew but one soul, one brilliant, tormented man, whose scientific acumen could serve such a monstrous purpose: Alan Campbell. Dorian crosses to the telephone, his movements unnaturally precise, almost dreamlike. His fingers, despite his outward calm, betray a faint tremor as he dials. Dorian, into the receiver, his voice strained but remarkably steady. "Alan. It's Dorian. I need your immediate assistance. It is of the utmost urgency. A matter of life and well, rather the opposite. Please, come at once." A beat of silence, punctuated by the metallic hum of the phone line, then a crisp click. The narrator's voice resumes, filling the agonizing void of the wait. Narrator. The moment stretched, each tick of the grandfather clock a hammer blow against the fragile edifice of Dorian's composure. He was acutely aware of Campbell's disdain for him, the unspoken chasm that had opened between them, severing a once close bond. Yet, he also held a secret, a terrible weight from Campbell's past, a burden far heavier than any lingering affection. And secrets, my dear listeners, are often the most potent, most ruthless of currencies. Footsteps echo from the hall, measured and reluctant. A lean figure, impeccably dressed but with a face etched with a profound, almost chronic sorrow enters. This is Alan Campbell. He halts abruptly, his gaze sweeping the ornate room, then, with an almost sickening inevitability, settling upon the shrouded form. Campbell, his voice is low, laced with apprehension. "Dorian. What is this?" Your call. His eyes fix on the shape beneath the velvet, and a sharp intake of breath escapes him. "My God. What have you done?" Dorian turns to face him. A flicker of raw desperation in his eyes. "Basil is dead. It was an accident.
A struggle. He attacked me.
I merely defended myself." Campbell, shaking his head, recoiling slightly. No, Dorian. I cannot be involved in this horror. You must notify the authorities." Shuck. Dorian Colent steps closer, his voice dropping to a silken, dangerously quiet whisper. The authorities. And ruin us both, Alan? Think, man? You, a scientist of such repute, embroiled in a public scandal. A trial. Your name dragged through the gutter. And my own, of course. Ask Campbell Kolansk. His face tightens, a muscle jumping violently in his jaw. What do you mean? Us both. I have no part in this monstrosity. I refuse. I will not compromise my conscience, not for your monstrous folly. Strax. Dorian Kolansk. A slow, almost imperceptible smile plays on his lips, a chilling thing to behold. His voice loses its silken quality, becoming sharp, precise, like a surgeon's most dreaded instrument. Conscience. Alan, do you truly possess such a luxury? Or is it merely a convenient mask for a deeper, more profound shame? Do you recall that night, Alan? That dreadful evening in the Rue des Martyrs? The letters, the unspeakable acts, the boy? Campbell freezes. The color drains from his face, leaving it an ashen mask. His eyes, usually so keen and analytical, are now wide with a terrible dawning horror. Campbell, Kolansk whispering, barely audible. You wouldn't, you couldn't. Dorian Kolansk. His voice is now pure ice, devoid of any warmth or mercy. Oh, but I could, Alan. And I most certainly would. I possess the letters. Every damning, incriminating word. A single word from me, a whisper in the appropriate ear, and your brilliant career, your impeccable reputation, your entire life as you know it, will shatter into 1,000 irreparable fragments. Imagine the disgrace, the scandal, the utter ruin. You would be ostracized, a pariah, a ghost haunting your own disgraced name. Your experiments, your research, all rendered utterly meaningless. Tell me, Alan, is Basil Hallward's inconvenient body truly worth that? Campbell stands motionless, a tableau of utter despair. The internal struggle is palpable, a silent war between his scientific ethics, his personal morality, and the paralyzing terror of exposure. The narrator's voice returns, a melancholic observer to this tragic unraveling. Narrator Kolatsk. And there it was, the ghost of Alan Campbell's past, conjured not by spectral mists, but by the venomous words of a man utterly corrupted. His dignity, his peace, his entire future all held hostage by a single, terrible secret. He glimpsed the abyss before him, a social death far more terrifying, more absolute, than the physical one that lay shrouded on the floor. Campbell Kolansk. Finally, his voice a broken whisper, utterly devoid of fight. What is it you wish me to do? Dorian Kolansk. A flicker of triumph in his eyes, instantly masked. You are a truly brilliant chemist, Alan. You possess the knowledge, the unique expertise that can make certain inconvenient realities disappear, completely, without a trace. Campbell simply nods, his gaze fixed on some distant, internal horror. He walks slowly towards the shrouded body, his scientific mind, once dedicated to the noble pursuit of discovery, now bending to the most grotesque of tasks. He begins to move with a grim, practiced efficiency, gathering reagents, setting up apparatus. The air fills with the faint, acrid tang of chemicals. Dorian watches, a strange, disturbing blend of profound relief and morbid fascination. The narrator closes the scene, emphasizing the profound moral decay that has now enveloped both men. Narrator Kolansk. And so, under the chilling, indifferent gaze of Dorian Gray, the brilliant mind of Alan Campbell became an instrument of unspeakable evil. The physical form of Basil Hallward would soon vanish, dissolved by acid and science, leaving no trace for the world to see. But the true vanishing, the deeper corrosion, was happening in plain sight. For Dorian, another layer of his soul peeled away, replaced by a brittle, hardened shell impervious to true feeling. And for Campbell, the ghost of his past had not merely been summoned, it had been given a monstrous, undeniable form, forever binding him to a crime he never wished to commit. The past, you see, always finds a way to haunt us, sometimes as a whisper, sometimes as a scream, and sometimes, dear friends, as the very agent of our undoing. The ghost had been laid bare, not just Basil's, but the ghosts of both men, forever etched into the suffocating silence of that dreadful room. Chapter 15. The haunting. The gaslights of Grosvenor Square cast long, spectral fingers across the silent cobblestones, each flicker a grotesque ballet of shadow and light. Within the grand, oppressive silence of his library, Dorian Gray paced, a caged animal haunted by the very air it breathed. The cold, unseeing eyes of Basil Hallward stared from beneath a velvet pall, an accusation more piercing than any spoken word. The scent of sanctity and death mingled, a nauseating perfume. How long had he stood there, watching the dawn creep, a reluctant revelation, across the London skyline. A lifetime, perhaps. A moment frozen in time, yet gravid with an eternity of consequence. Panic, cold, and reptilian, began to coil around his heart, the body, the impossible, undeniable fact of it. How could one, so delicately wrought, so accustomed to beauty and artifice, navigate such stark, brutal reality? His mind, usually a kaleidoscope of exquisite sensations, now spun with desperate, frantic calculations. Servants would arrive, the world would stir, and this unholy still life would be unveiled. Who could possibly be pressed into this unspeakable service? His thoughts, like predatory birds, circled then swooped, landing on a name that tasted of old secrets and forgotten promises. Alan Campbell. Alan Campbell. Once, a brilliant star in his orbit, a young man of science, whose sensitive soul Dorian had, with exquisite cruelty, twisted and reshaped. He remembered their intense, fevered friendship, born of shared intellectual curiosity and a fleeting, dark intimacy. He remembered the moment he had discovered Campbell's secret not through malice, but through that uncanny knack he possessed for divining the hidden vulnerabilities of others. A secret so profoundly shameful, so utterly ruinous, that Campbell had since moved in a perpetual shadow, avoiding all past connections, especially Dorian. Yes, Campbell was the one. His genius, his discretion, his history. A perfect, terrible confluence. The chill of the morning air seemed to bite deeper as Dorian, cloaked and hat pulled low, hurried through the still sleeping streets. Each step was a measured drumbeat against the silence, a countdown to a confrontation he dreaded, yet craved with a perverse hunger. The thought of coercing Campbell, of stripping bare that man's carefully constructed life, was a small bitter solace in the vast emptiness of his guilt. Campbell lived in a quiet, dignified house near the park. A servant, roused by the insistent knock, looked at Dorian with sleepy suspicion, then, recognizing him, ushered him into a drawing room where scientific instruments gleamed like alien sentinels. Campbell entered, pale and gaunt, his spectacles perched on the bridge of his nose. He carried himself with the weary elegance of one who has fought and lost many internal battles. "Dorian, to what do I owe this early visit?" Campbell's voice was strained, a hint of steel beneath the polite veneer. He had clearly hoped never to see Dorian again. Dorian, with an almost imperceptible shudder, forced a smile, a practiced mask of charming despair. "Alan, old friend, I am in the gravest difficulty, a matter of utmost delicacy. I have nowhere else to turn." He watched Campbell's face, a flicker of apprehension, then a hardening of resolve. Campbell was preparing for a polite refusal, but Dorian had not come to be refused. He spoke of an unfortunate incident, a terrible accident, weaving a narrative of distress and misfortune, all while his eyes, unnervingly bright, never left Campbell's. "I need your unique talents," Alan Dorian continued, his voice dropping to a near whisper, laden with a significance that hung heavy in the air. "I need you to remove something for me, something that must vanish without a trace." "A body, Alan." The word hung between them, a shard of ice in the elegant room. Campbell recoiled, a gasp tearing from his throat. His face drained of all color, leaving him ghost white, his eyes wide with horror and disgust. "A body? Dorian, are you mad? You cannot ask me to do such a thing!" "I am a man of science, not some ghoulish undertaker." "Precisely, Alan, a man of science, a man of precise knowledge. You know these things. The acids, the compounds, the swift, silent dissolution." Dorian leaned forward, his voice now a low, dangerous growl, barely audible, yet resonating with an undeniable threat. "And I know things too, Alan. Things about you. Things that would make your brilliant career, your impeccable reputation, crumble into dust. Things that would send you not merely into exile, but into a deeper, more permanent obscurity than you could ever imagine." Campbell staggered back, clutching the mantelpiece for support. His breath came in ragged gasps. The color rushed back to his face, a blotchy red, then receded again, leaving him trembling. The fight drained from his eyes, replaced by a profound, terrible resignation. He knew Dorian held his life in his hands, not just metaphorically, but practically. The silence that followed was thick with unspoken blackmail, with the crushing weight of a soul held captive. You fiend," Campbell whispered, his voice hoarse with choked rage and despair. "Very well, tell me what I need. But know this, Dorian, I shall never forgive you, never." And so, Dorian led him back through the waking city, past the cheerful flower stalls and the milk carts, back to the silent, suffocating library. Campbell, his face a mask of grim determination, moved with the efficiency of a man performing a loathsome but necessary surgical procedure. The air grew thick with chemical tang. Dorian watched, detached, observing the macabre alchemy as the evidence of his crime, and Basil's life, slowly, terribly, dissolved into nothingness. When it was done, the silence in the room was absolute, yet it seemed to throb with the echo of a scream. Campbell, trembling, threw open a window, gasping for fresh air. He looked at Dorian not with hatred, but with a profound, terrifying pity. Then he turned and left, without another word, his footsteps fading into the indifferent hum of the city. Dorian stood alone amidst the chemical stench, the ghostly memory of a man, and the fresh, cold weight of a new, unspeakable secret. The haunting had truly begun, not just of a dead man, but of a living soul. Chapter 16, A Coward's Redemption. The air hung thick and greasy, a cloying stew of stale opium smoke, cheap spirits, and the unwashed desperation of lost souls. It clung to the ragged curtains, seeped into the very wood of the floorboards, and settled heavy in the lungs of those who sought to drown their consciences in its murky depths. Dorian Gray, shrouded in a rough ulster, his face deliberately smudged with soot and shadowed by a wide-brimmed hat, sat hunched in a corner, nursing a pipe that offered no solace, only a deeper plunge into the abyss he now called his sanctuary. Anonymity was a drug itself, potent and fleeting. He had come to this vile East End den seeking oblivion, a temporary truce with the relentless ghost of Basil Hallward that whispered from every shadow, but the squalid peace was shattered by the clatter of a falling tray, and a familiar, ravaged voice that clawed at his memory. "Dorian, is that you, Dorian?" He stiffened, the pipe almost slipping from his trembling fingers. Adrian Singleton, another name added to the grim ledger of his influence, now just another spectral inhabitant of this inferno. Adrian, whose bright promise Dorian had so deftly, so charmingly extinguished. "No," Dorian mumbled, pulling the brim lower. "You have mistaken me for someone else." Adrian, wasted and shivering, laughed a hollow, pathetic sound. "Don't be absurd. I'd know you anywhere, Dorian, still looking like some damned Greek god. What brings the Prince of Paradox to this particular hell?" He swayed, then leaned closer, a bitter glint in his bleary eyes. "Come to see your handiwork, perhaps. To witness the wreckage you leave behind." Dorian felt a cold dread trickle down his spine. Adrian's words were darts, each one piercing the thin armor of his self-deception. He rose abruptly, eager to escape this spectral reminder of his crimes, this living accusation. As he moved towards the door, a woman's shrill, excited voice cut through the haze. "There goes Prince Charming, always so fast to disappear, isn't he?" The words struck Dorian like a physical blow. Prince Charming. The hateful, damning epithet. The name that linked him irrevocably to Sybil Vane, and to the bitter, unyielding vengeance of her brother. He glanced back, a flash of pure terror in his eyes. He saw the woman, her face painted grotesquely, pointing a grimy finger in his direction. And then, he saw him. A massive, hulking figure, rising from a bench in the darkest corner of the room. James Vane. His face, etched with a grim, unwavering purpose, was turned towards Dorian, a predatory focus in his eyes. "Prince Charming." James's voice was a low growl, more animal than human. "Is that the man? The man who wronged my sister?" Dorian's heart hammered against his ribs. He had been found. After all these years, after all his careful concealment, panic threatened to overwhelm him, but an instinct for survival, as sharp and cruel as any beast's, suddenly asserted itself. He spun around, facing James, and let the dim, flickering lamplight illuminate his unblemished, youthful features. "You are mistaken," Dorian said, his voice trembling only slightly, a master of deception even in the throes of fear. "You are looking for a man who seduced your sister 18 years ago. Look at me. Do I look like a man who could have been alive, let alone seducing women 18 years ago?" He opened his coat, displaying his slender, boyish form. "I am barely 21. The man you seek would be nearly 40 by now, his face lined, his hair perhaps grayed. I am not he." James Vane stared, his brow furrowed in confusion. He had expected an older man, a man marked by time and perhaps by vice. The young man before him, with his porcelain skin and innocent eyes, seemed impossibly youthful, too young to carry such a burden of sin. He hesitated, his powerful hands clenching and unclenching. "But the woman," he began, his conviction wavering. "The woman is clearly mad," Dorian interjected quickly, seizing the advantage. "A poor creature, deluded by drink and drugs. If your sister's betrayer looked like me, he would be a boy, barely out of school. Think, man! You seek justice, not foolish errors!" A ripple of doubt crossed James's hardened face. He looked at Dorian, then back at the woman, then back at Dorian again. He saw only youth, untarnished and vibrant. With a frustrated growl, he turned away, his shoulders slumping. "My apologies, sir," he muttered, the rage temporarily subdued by apparent fact. "I have made a grave mistake." Dorian didn't wait. He melted into the oppressive night, pushing through the suffocating fog of the alleyways, his lungs burning, his mind reeling. He was safe. He had escaped. But as he fled, the words of the painted woman, now sobered by a sudden fear, echoed behind him, piercing the darkness like a poisoned arrow. "Why, it is Prince Charming?" she whispered to James, a horrified realization dawning on her. "He hasn't aged a day since I first knew him. He's the devil himself." James Vane's head snapped up, his eyes, now burning with a renewed, terrible certainty, locked onto the retreating shadow of Dorian Gray. The hunt was back on, fueled by a colder, more terrifying rage. There was no redemption here, only a desperate, cowardly flight from a justice that had finally found its scent. Chapter 17. The final confrontation-esque INT. Dorian's study, late night schist. The vast, opulent study is cloaked in shadows, gaslight flickering across mahogany and gilded frames. Books and curios offer no comfort, only silent judgment. A heavy velvet curtain hangs ominously in one corner, concealing the dreadful portrait. Dorian Gray, 38, though appearing eternally youthful, paces restlessly, his silken dressing gown a ripple of shadow. His exquisitely handsome face is etched with weariness, his eyes holding a feverish, haunted glint. He stops before a tall, arched window, peering out into the impenetrable London fog, which presses against the glass, mirroring the suffocating weight in his chest. Dorian, muttering a low, desperate whisper, "Another day. Another night." The ghost clings like grave damp. Vane, swallowed by the marsh, Basil erased, and the others, nameless, countless, whispers in the dark, echoes of broken lives. All for this, all for a fool's paradise. He turns sharply, his gaze drawn to the velvet curtain. He feels its presence, a malevolent eye watching from its shroud. He approaches slowly, as if drawn by an irresistible cord. His fingers twitch, longing to tear it down, yet recoiling from the grotesque truth. Dorian, his voice growing stronger, a tremor of madness. "You, silent witness, repository of every vile act, every tainted thought. You took my youth, yet gave me something more terrible, a mirror to a soul I no longer recognize, a horror I cannot escape." He stares at the curtain, chest heaving. A profound despair washes over him. The sheer futility of his existence, purchased at monstrous cost, becomes overwhelmingly clear. He has gorged on every pleasure, every vice, yet finds only an aching emptiness, a gnawing dread. He remembers Basil's plea, his love, his innocence. Sybil's tragic beauty shattered. James Vane's cold, unfeeling stare, a sentinel of justice. And through it all, his own flawless face, a cruel mockery of the decay within. Dorian, a bitter laugh, devoid of mirth, beautiful, young, free. "What a lie! I'm a prisoner, bound by crimson and black threads, woven into my very being. Asterisk are the loom." He extends a trembling hand towards the curtain, breath catching. He feels a sudden, urgent need to end it, to sever the cord, to destroy the hideous thing that has haunted his life. Not for repentance, not for salvation, but for release from its unbearable burden. Dorian, with desperate resolve, "This cannot continue. I must face it. See it for what it is, one last time. And then it will be done. One way or another." His hand reaches for the heavy velvet, fingers closing around the fabric. The air thickens, charged with unspoken dread. The confrontation, long deferred, is at hand. The true reckoning, not with man, but with the monstrous truth he carries, is finally here. Chapter 18. The sound and the fury. The autumn morning at Selby Royal was a tapestry woven with mist and the muted gold of dying leaves. But for Dorian Gray, it felt less like a haven and more like a gilded cage. He moved through the breakfast room, a phantom grace clinging to his steps, but his eyes, though bright, held a restless, hunted quality. The ghost of Basil Hallward clung to him like a suffocating shroud, and the image of a certain sailor, a relentless shadow, danced at the periphery of his vision. "Dorian, my dear boy," Lord Henry drawled from behind a copy of the Standard asterisk, "you look as though you've slept poorly, or perhaps too well. One can be equally exhausting." Dorian offered a weak smile, picking at a piece of toast. "Merely the weight of Selby's hospitality, Harry. It's an oppressive luxury." He glanced out the window at the distant thicket, a prickle of unease rippling through him. Lately, every rustle, every distant shout, seemed pregnant with sinister meaning. "Nonsense," Lord Henry continued, lowering his paper. "Luxury, like sin, is only oppressive if one allows it to be. The trick, you see, is to embrace it utterly, until it becomes indistinguishable from air." He raised an eyebrow, noting Dorian's distracted gaze. "Are you joining the shooting party this morning? The Duchess informs me the pheasants are exceptionally suicidal." "Perhaps," Dorian murmured. The thought of loud reports, the sudden flurry of feathers, grated on his nerves. He felt a deep, chilling premonition, a sense of an ending drawing near. It wasn't the kind of ending one courted with elegant despair, but a raw, violent cessation. "It will do you good, Dorian," said the Duchess of Monmouth, appearing beside him, her gentle eyes observing him with a hint of concern. To be amidst the crisp air, the thrill of the chase. Though, she added with a sigh, I always find the violence of it a touch barbaric. Such beautiful creatures, only to be brought down by a sudden, ugly sound. Life itself is often an ugly sound, Duchess, Lord Henry interjected, his voice silken. And death, a mere pause in the cacophony. Dorian shivered, despite the warmth of the room. I think I shall join, if only to escape my own thoughts. And so, he found himself later, amidst the beaters and the barking dogs, the sharp scent of gunpowder already mingling with the damp earth. His hand trembled slightly as he raised his gun, his aim unfocused. The exhilaration, the supposed cure for his torments, felt hollow, replaced by a growing dread. The cries of the beaters grew louder, closer, pushing something unseen towards them. Suddenly, a shot rang out, not from a sportsman's gun, but from somewhere in the thicket. Then another, followed by a startled yelp, not of a dog, but of a man. A sudden hush fell over the party, broken only by the distant, confused barking. What was that? The Duchess cried, her face paling. An accident, I fear, Lord Henry said, though even his nonchalance seemed to waver. They moved forward, a tense, silent procession, following the distraught shouts of the gamekeepers. And there, amidst the crushed bracken and the startled, cooing pigeons, lay a man. His cap was askew, his face obscured by a grotesque splash of blood, his body still, unnaturally so. One of the shots intended for a fleeting rabbit had gone wide, straight into the man's eye. A wave of icy terror crashed over Dorian. He felt his breath catch, his legs threatened to give way. This was it, he thought, the inevitable reckoning. Fate, or some more terrible, unseen force, had finally reached for him. He stared at the lifeless figure, his mind a frantic, desperate scramble. The weight of his sins, of Basil's blood, seemed to settle upon the scene, heavy and suffocating. Then, slowly, as the gamekeeper turned the body slightly, Dorian saw it. The rough, weather-beaten features, the coarse jacket, the unmistakable scar above the eyebrow. James Vane. A profound, sickening wave of relief washed over him, so potent it made him gasp. It was like a black, suffocating blanket had been lifted, revealing a sliver of terrifying freedom. His pursuer, the one who haunted his nights and shadowed his days, was gone. Not by his hand, but by an indifferent, cruel twist of fate. The world seemed to spin for a moment, the sounds of the frantic gamekeepers, Lord Henry's detached pronouncements, the Duchess's murmured condolences, all fading into a dull roar. He felt a strange, detached elation, a victory snatched from the jaws of despair. But even as the relief coursed through him, a new, cold dread took root. He was free, yes, but freedom, bought with such an ugly sound, such an accidental fury, felt more like another link in his endless, gilded chain. The silence that followed the sudden violence was not peace, but a sinister quiet, promising only more torment to come. Chapter 19. The Philosophy of Art and Life. The evening drew a velvet curtain around Dorian Gray's study, a sanctuary now grown stifling. Lord Henry, reclining as ever, a languid figure against the plush, crimson velvet of the armchair, regarded Dorian with an amused, if slightly weary indulgence. A half-smoked cigarette smoldered in an ivory holder, its smoke curling like a cynical whisper in the air, echoing the subtle venom in Lord Henry's perpetual smile. Dorian, pacing restlessly, a caged panther in a gilded cage, could no longer bear the weight of his silences, nor the unspoken judgment of the very air. He had tried, he swore, to be good. A futile, pathetic attempt to cleanse the indelible stain that had become his very soul. He spoke, his voice hoarse, of Hetty Merton, the village girl he had resolved to spare, to leave untouched by his blight. He had believed, for a fleeting, desperate moment, that an act of kindness, however small, might somehow magically restore him, might wipe clean the ledger of his sins. Lord Henry merely smiled, a slow, knowing curl of the lip. My dear Dorian, he purred, the words a silken caress that simultaneously flattered and dismissed. Goodness, what a quaint, bourgeois notion. And pray tell, what was the genesis of this sudden, rather pedestrian virtue? An artistic experiment, perhaps, a new sensation to be explored. His eyes, bright with mischievous intellect, twinkled. Dorian recoiled as if struck. I wanted to be better, Harry, to undo the evil, the horror I've caused, to feel something other than this crushing guilt. Undo evil. Lord Henry chuckled, a sound like dry leaves skittering across pavement. My boy, evil is merely a point of view. A richer, more complex canvas for experience. You thought to play the role of the knight-errant, to leave a country girl untarnished. How utterly, wonderfully naive asterisk. Did you truly believe a single act of abstention, born of what? Guilt? Fear of discovery? Sentimental regret? Could truly alter the magnificent tapestry you have woven with your life? Art, Dorian, is not concerned with morality. It is concerned with beauty, with sensation, with life in its rawest, most exquisite forms. He paused, taking a slow draw from his cigarette, the tip glowing like a tiny, malevolent eye. Your attempt to be good was in itself an act of aestheticism. You wished to see if the portrait, your secret keeper, would reflect a change. A vanity, my dear boy, a delicate, self-serving vanity, masquerading as repentance. It was a fascinating study, I grant you, but nothing more. Dorian's hands clenched, his knuckles white. The truth of Harry's words, twisted and cruel as they were, burrowed into his conscience like a parasitic worm. He had indeed looked to the portrait, not to a higher power, for validation. His act of perceived virtue had been a theatrical performance for his own warped reflection, another exquisite sensation to observe. Life is art, Lord Henry continued, his voice now a mesmerizing drone, and you, Dorian, have lived a masterpiece. Why stain it with the drab hues of conventional morality? There is no such thing as a good influence, Dorian, or a bad influence. All influence is simply observation, an extension of self. To influence a person is to give him one's own soul. He does not think his natural thoughts, or burn with his natural passions. His virtues are not real to him. His sins, if there are such things as sins, are borrowed. He becomes an echo of someone else's music, a shadow of an unsung play, an aesthetic object to be admired or deplored, but always experienced. Dorian felt a chill despite the warmth of the fire. Was he merely an echo of Harry's destructive symphony, a shadow of a play no one else could see? The thought gnawed at him, a relentless torment. The portrait, the hideous burden, screamed silently in his mind. It alone held the grotesque truth, the mirror of his soul that Harry, for all his cleverness, could never truly see, nor truly understand. And in that moment, a desperate, violent impulse surged within him to destroy the witness, to erase the evidence, to kill the monstrous thing that was himself, contained within that painted canvas. If only he could rid himself of that painting, he might yet be free. Chapter 20. The modern Dorian, the city lights twinkled far below, a silent, indifferent audience to the turmoil within. Dorian Gray, impeccably dressed even in his dishevelment, paced his minimalist living room. The sleek chrome and glass surfaces reflected his anxious energy. He tried to lose himself in the soft hum of ambient music, in the endless scroll of a tablet, but his eyes kept drifting to a concealed panel in the wall. The hidden room. The portrait, Dorian muttering to himself, and the unseen canvas. Another night. Another cycle. I genuinely thought I could outrun it, outsmart it. Change it. That girl, Hattie. Young, impressionable. I held back, walked away. For once, I didn't play the game to its bitter end. I even told myself it was progress. A flicker of something decent. He walked to a large, floor-to-ceiling mirror, running a hand over his jawline, scrutinizing his reflection. His features were still perfect, unmarred. A cruel mockery of the truth he knew lay behind that panel. Dorian, and for what? A slight reprieve. A microscopic delay in the inevitable decay of that thing. It still showed me its disapproval, its judgment, as if my efforts were performative, and perhaps they were. God, perhaps they always are. He turned from the mirror, his frustration growing. He could feel the portrait's gaze, even through reinforced steel. Dorian, it's a digital ghost, haunting my every thought, every decision. A screen I can't turn off, a feed that never refreshes to something clean. I tried. I really did. I convinced myself I could curate my way out of this. Delete the old files. Archive the mistakes. But it's not a file, is it? It's the source code. My very operating system, corrupted. He pulled out a designer whiskey glass, poured a generous measure, but didn't drink. His hand trembled slightly. Dorian, this isn't just a reflection of my sins. It is my sin. It's my soul, pixelated and distorted, constantly reminding me that every filter I apply to my life, every perfect pose for the camera, is a lie. A brittle, beautiful lie. And it enjoys its truth. It stares back, mocking my perfect facade, my endless youth, my curated existence. He slammed the glass down on a side table. The sound echoed in the silent apartment. Dorian, no, no more. I've lived with this silent torment for too long. This burden of perpetual beauty, while that grotesque parody of me festers, grows lives in the dark. It's the anchor pulling me down. The virus that infects every fleeting moment of joy. It whispers of what I truly am, beneath the influencer smile, the charitable donations, the perfectly crafted public persona. His eyes fixed on the hidden panel with a terrifying resolve. A cold fury began to replace his agitation. Dorian, it has to go. It has to be erased, not just hidden, not just ignored, destroyed. If that painting holds my soul, then destroying it must free my soul. It must wipe the slate clean. A hard reset. A complete system purge. Everything. The past, the guilt, the horror, the constant, suffocating fear. It's the only way to be truly new. To be truly me *. Or what's left of me to save. He walked purposefully towards the panel. His fingers, usually so delicate, pressed firmly against the biometric scanner. A soft click. The panel slid open with a whisper of hydraulics, revealing the hidden room. The room was stark, brightly lit by a single overhead lamp. In the center, on an easel, was the portrait. It hung, an abomination, sickeningly ugly, its beauty long since vanished, replaced by a canvas of decaying evil. Dorian stared at it, his breath catching in his throat. The face on the canvas seemed to leer, its eyes, once so innocent, now burning with a malevolent intelligence, reflecting back every unspeakable act, every whispered lie, every broken promise. Dorian, his voice low, strained you. You are the mirror of my shame, the keeper of my wretched secret. You condemn me with every grotesque line, every festering mark. You are the source of this unending horror. And I am tired, so terribly tired of being beautiful on the outside and a monster in here. He moved to a drawer in a sleek console table nearby. From it, he retrieved a letter opener, a heavy, ornate silver piece, sharp-edged and gleaming under the harsh light. He held it, feeling its weight, its cold promise of finality. Dorian raising the letter opener, his hand steady now, eyes blazing with a desperate, destructive fire. If you are my soul, then let this be its liberation. Let this be the end of the torment. The end of you and the beginning of nothing, or everything. He lunged forward, a desperate cry tearing from his throat, driving the sharp point deep into the heart of the painted figure. My dear reader, let us pause for a moment, away from the gilded drawing rooms and the whispers of scandal that cling to our ill-fated Dorian. His story, for all its Gothic grandeur, holds a mirror to us all, not just to the monstrous beauty of a man who sold his soul for a flawless facade. No, what I wish to speak of now is your portrait. Not the one captured by a painter's brush, nor the reflection that greets you in the morning glass, but the invisible, profound canvas upon which your very soul is rendered. We begin with an uncomfortable truth: every one of us possesses such a portrait. Initially, it is pristine, a testament to innocence, brimming with the pure potential of who we are meant to be. But then, life begins its work. The fleeting temptation, the convenient lie, the kindness withheld, the ambition pursued at another's expense. Each is a subtle brushstroke, a shadow cast, a pigment darkening where light once played. Unlike Dorian, our physical forms might wrinkle and fade with time, while our internal portrait slowly, almost imperceptibly, begins to mirror the true cost of our choices, the decay of integrity beneath the polished surface. We might ignore the growing ugliness, distracting ourselves with external accolades, convinced that if the world still applauds our outward show, then surely all is well within. Yet, there remains that persistent, unsettling whisper in the quiet hours, that faint tremor of recognition that our inner landscape is no longer quite as beautiful as we pretend it to be. This, then, is our 7-day expedition. Not a magical incantation, but a conscious, deliberate journey to reclaim the artist's brush, to restore the luminosity of your own unique masterpiece. Day 1, the unflinching gaze disc. Find a moment of true solitude. Close your eyes not to the world, but to your self. Let go of judgment, simply observe. What feelings rise when you recall your recent actions? Is there a dissonance between who you present yourself to be and who you truly feel you are? Acknowledge this feeling, however faint or sharp. This is merely the first opening of the gallery doors. Day 2. Naming the shadow dusk with the courage of a true seeker, identify one small stain, one forgotten promise, one unkind word left unspoken, or perhaps too harshly spoken. It need not be monumental. Often, it is the accumulation of trivial moral neglects that casts the longest shadow. Name it, not to condemn, but to illuminate, much like bringing a lamp to a dim corner of an old painting. Day 3. Recalling the original hue, think back to a time when your spirit felt unburdened, when your values shone clearest, before the world began to layer its demands upon you. What core principles anchored you? What kind of person did you aspire to be, without reservation? Reconnect with that initial purity, the bright, true colors of your inherent self. This is your template for restoration. Day 4. The first stroke of light. Today, choose one conscious act of goodness. It might be a sincere compliment, a genuine apology, a moment of selfless listening, or an act of quiet charity. Let this action be entirely for its own sake, devoid of expectation or desire for recognition. Feel the brush connect with the canvas, laying down a fresh, clean pigment. Ask Day 5, the rhythm of restoration. This day, repeat the intention. Find another opportunity, however small, to align your actions with the values you recalled on Day 3. Consistency is not monotony, it is the steady, patient hand of a master artist building layers of truth, allowing the light to slowly seep back into the canvas. Each deliberate choice adds depth, restoring texture and vibrance. Ask Day 6, the eraser of grace. Look upon your past imperfections, not with harsh criticism, but with understanding. We are all imperfect artists, learning as we go. Offer yourself grace, forgiveness for the smudges and missteps. This isn't an excuse for future errors, but a liberation from the heavy burden of past ones, allowing you to paint anew with a lighter heart and a steadier hand. The portrait, like life itself, is a continuous work in progress, not a static monument. Ask Day 7, the living masterpiece. You have not finished your portrait. That is the folly of Dorian, the belief in a static, perfect image. Instead, you have become its conscious artist. From this day forward, commit to painting with intent. Let your choices be the colors, your words the lines, your actions the texture. Understand that every interaction, every thought, every response is a stroke. Your portrait will forever be in flux, reflecting the journey of your soul, not hiding it. Its beauty will lie not in its unchanging facade, but in its evolving authenticity, a testament to a life lived with integrity and courage, constantly seeking to reveal the truest, most radiant self beneath. My friends, lean in, for some stories don't just entertain, they etch themselves into the soul. Oscar Wilde's exquisite tragedy, The Picture of Dorian Gray is one such narrative, a glittering venomous mirror reflecting profound human truths. From its depths emerge three eternal truths, stark as ancient prophecies, immutable as the stars. The first, a shimmering deception, reveals the hollow allure of a mortal beauty. Young Dorian, in vain yearning, wished for his portrait to age and bear the marks of sin, leaving him perpetually youthful. A tempting dream, indeed, to defy time's relentless tide. Yet Dorian's life screams a stark warning. Beauty, severed from kindness, empathy, from humanity's core, becomes a beautiful cage. His outward perfection cloaked a deepening void, a spirit festering unseen. True radiance, we learn, isn't an untouched face, but a heart that has lived, felt, and grown, gracefully embracing time. His eternal youth became his curse, a beautiful lie allowing his soul to rot, unchastened. This leads us to the second, chilling truth, the indelible mark of sin upon the soul. The portrait was no mere canvas, it was a relentless ledger of Dorian's spirit. Each transgression, however secret or slight, left a grotesque stain, a hateful twist upon the painted face. While Dorian danced through gilded halls, charming all, his true self, imprisoned in that canvas, withered under his deed's weight. He might have smiled, but the portrait sneered. He might have feigned affection, but the portrait bled with his indifference. This is the terrifying lesson: you cannot escape yourself. Your actions, your choices, they cling to your soul, sculpting it, distorting it. Your external facade might deceive, but your inner self keeps an honest, brutal tally, and eventually, that inner self demands reckoning. The portrait became Dorian's silent accuser, proving that morality isn't a suggestion, but the fundamental architecture of the human spirit. Finally, most eloquently, we confront the third truth, the inescapable confrontation with consequence. For all his years of poisonous charm, Dorian could not outrun fate, nor the truth of his own making. The portrait, that vile mirror, demanded its final payment. He could hide it, lock it away, but its silent accusation gnawed at him, a splinter in his very core. He sought to destroy it, believing he could erase the past, cleanse his soul. But the irony, oh, the exquisite cruelty! In striking the canvas, he struck himself. The hideous reflection of his soul, the truth he so desperately avoided, was him. The blade that tore through the painted heart, tore through his own. There is no escaping the ultimate outcome of our choices, no matter how long we delay the reckoning. Time, that great unmasker, eventually strips away all illusions, compelling us to face what we have become, to answer for every act. So, when the final curtain falls on Dorian Gray, when the servants discover the withered, repulsive old man before the pristine portrait of his youth, it's more than a life's end. It's the resounding affirmation of these three eternal truths: beauty, Without virtue is a curse, the soul bears every scar of sin, and ultimately, no one can escape the confrontation with their own true self. Truths for Dorian, yes, but equally for you, and for me, whispered across the centuries, urging us to look deeper, live authentically, and remember the indelible picture we paint, day by day, upon the canvas of our own souls. And so, we arrive at the precipice, having walked hand in hand with Dorian Gray through gilded drawing rooms and shadowed alleyways, witnesses to his perilous dance with beauty, morality, and the relentless march of time. We've seen the pristine canvas transform, a silent scream of a soul's slow decay, while its owner maintained an outward facade of porcelain perfection. We've wrestled with Lord Henry's insidious whispers, admired Basil's pure-hearted artistry, and felt the chilling despair as Dorian's choices carved deeper lines into that enchanted portrait. But the story, my friends, does not truly end with the thud of a knife and the shattering of a spell. Oscar Wilde, with his glittering wit and profound insight, didn't merely craft a tale for passive consumption. He laid a trap, a glorious intellectual snare, inviting us to peer into the abyssal depths of human nature, not just Dorian's, but our own. Consider, for a moment, the quiet hum that resonates long after the final page is turned. Isn't there a whisper of recognition within you, a faint echo of Dorian's struggle, perhaps in a less dramatic, more subtle form? We all face choices that test our integrity. We all grapple with the allure of appearances versus the truth of our being. We all navigate the currents of influence, whether from a charismatic friend or the pervasive pressures of society. The Victorian drawing rooms may be long gone, but the human heart remains a fascinating, complex, and often contradictory chamber. This is where your journey truly begins. This book, this exploration of the picture of Dorian Gray, is not merely an analysis, it is an invitation to step out of the shadows of observation and into the vibrant light of discourse. The very essence of Wilde's genius lies in his ability to provoke, to challenge, to force us to confront uncomfortable truths and beautiful lies. And that provocation, my dear reader, demands a response. What did you truly feel when Dorian made his fateful wish? Did you empathize with Basil's anguish, or find yourself swayed by Lord Henry's cynical charm? In what ways does the concept of a soul mirror resonate in our modern age of curated images and digital personas? Where do **** draw the line between art and morality, between influence and culpability? These are not questions with easy answers, nor are they meant to be pondered in solitary silence. They are threads designed for weaving into a grand tapestry of shared understanding. They are sparks meant to ignite a lively debate, a thoughtful reflection among those who have journeyed through these same pages. Join the conversation. Let your voice be heard in the ongoing dialogue that Wilde so brilliantly initiated over a century ago. Share your insights, your interpretations, your disagreements. Venture forth into the public square, be it an online forum, a book club gathering, or even a heartfelt discussion with a fellow reader over a cup of tea, and contribute your unique perspective to the enduring legacy of Dorian Gray. The novel's power is amplified not just by its initial reading, but by the myriad minds it continues to stir, the rich conversations it perpetually inspires. Let us together unravel the intricate layers of this masterpiece, adding our own insights to its timeless legacy. For in discussing Dorian's fate, we inevitably learn more about our own.